Think about the most highly paid, highly educated experts in the world for a second. People whose entire careers literally depend on their ability to predict the future. We're talking Wall Street traders, Hollywood executives, elite book publishers. They get paid millions, right? Because they supposedly know exactly what's going to succeed and what's going to fail. But what if they don't? What if I told you their multi-million-dollar predictions are honestly no better than just flipping a coin? Okay, let's dive into this explainer, because the reality of how success actually happens is going to completely shatter the way you view the world.
Part 1. The illusion of success. We all have this very specific story hardwired into our brains, that extreme success is always born from extreme genius. We look at massive hits and automatically assume the people behind them just had some kind of divine foresight. But to see why that's a total myth, we really just have to look at the ultimate casino, Hollywood. Studio executives are paid absolute fortunes to pick winners. And yet, the whole industry is plagued by this bizarre paradox. How is it possible that a jittery, homemade horror film shot for peanuts absolutely dominates the box office, while movies with massive budgets, A-list stars, and armies of seasoned executives completely crash and burn?
I mean, let's put this in perspective. The Blair Witch Project cost a mere $60,000 to make, but it pulled in a staggering $140 million. On the flip side, you have Last Action Hero. It starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, had a massive $85 million budget, and was considered a huge disappointment, making only $50 million domestically. The legendary screenwriter William Goldman famously said about Hollywood, "Nobody knows anything." The path from getting a green light to opening weekend is just so incredibly complex, so vulnerable to invisible, uncontrollable forces, that an educated guess by a seasoned executive is, frankly, often no better than a coin toss.
And hey, it's not just movies. 26. That is the exact number of times publishing experts, people whose sole job in life is to identify profitable books, completely rejected John Grisham's A Time to Kill. 26 different experts looked at a future cultural phenomenon and basically said, yeah, no thanks. J.K. Rowling was rejected 9 times. Dr. Seuss, 27 times. So if success is purely based on recognizable skill, how do the experts keep missing it so badly?
Well, that brings us to the core of today's explainer, based on Leonard Mladenow's really fascinating book, The Drunkard's Walk. Mladenow drops this profound premise on us. The reality we perceive, the success and the failure we see all around us, isn't a direct reflection of skill or incompetence. Instead, it's an image entirely blurred by the invisible, chaotic effects of randomness. And this is where things get weird, because our brains literally refuse to accept this.
Which brings us to Part 2, Outsmarted by a Rat.
To really understand why we cling to this illusion of control, we have to look at a literal glitch in human psychology, our desperate biological need to find patterns in the noise. We just have to know the why behind everything. Let's look at a classic probability guessing experiment. It's a super simple game. You sit in front of a panel of lights. Green flashes 75% of the time. Red flashes 25% of the time. The sequence is totally random. There's no secret code. Your only job is just to predict which color will flash next. Researchers tested this exact game with humans, and they also tested it with lab rats.
The outcome here is absolutely fascinating. The rat just uses brute force logic. It quickly realizes green shows up way more often, so it just sits there and chooses green every single time. By doing this, the rat guarantees a solid 75% success rate. But the human? Well, the human brain is kind of too smart for its own good. We try to outsmart the system. We try to guess the exact sequence of red and green, trying to match our guesses perfectly to the percentages. Because the sequence is actually random, this strategy drops the human success rate to just 60%.
We are quite literally outsmarted by a rodent. We just can't help it. Our left hemisphere frantically searches for a pattern, stubbornly refusing to accept that something is just random noise. We are hardwired to see ghosts in the static. We invent causes where none exist, because the alternative, admitting that we are not actually in control, is psychologically terrifying to us.
Part 3, The Pattern Glitch.
Now, that pattern-seeking glitch sounds pretty harmless in a laboratory setting with some flashing lights, right? But take it into a high-stakes corporate boardroom, and it leads to something psychologists call the law of small numbers. This is the misguided human intuition that a very small sample of data, like say a few good quarters of earnings or a couple of hit movies, accurately reflects an underlying permanent reality. It's the exact moment that explains why we constantly misinterpret a brief spark of pure luck as repeatable, undeniable skill. Take the legendary studio boss Sherry Lansing, for example. Under her leadership, Paramount had this miraculous run. Forrest Gump, Braveheart, Titanic. She was hailed as a total genius with a golden gut. But then she hit a cold streak. The hits just stopped coming, and she was abruptly fired for losing her touch. But wait, did she suddenly forget how to make movies? Did her brain fundamentally change overnight? No way. We just dangerously confuse a lucky streak with a hot hand.
Here's the brutal math behind those streaks. If you take 10 Hollywood executives and have them each flip a coin 10 times, the probability that at least one of them will flip 8 heads out of 10 purely by chance is a massive 66%. In any large group of people competing, someone is mathematically guaranteed to look like a genius just by accident. They'll get put on magazine covers, they'll get million-dollar bonuses, but it's an illusion.
As the psychologist Ellen Langer noted, while people may pay lip service to the concept of chance, they behave as though chance events are subject to control. We crave control so badly that when someone hits that random streak of 8 heads, we invent this vast, compelling narrative to explain why they are a visionary, completely ignoring the invisible hand of luck.
Part 4. The Drunkard's Walk.
So if our brains are tricking us, and much of success and failure is driven by unseen random forces, how should we actually view our lives? Well, we have to view our paths through a concept known as the Drunkard's Walk. This is a mathematical term for random motion, kind of like molecules colliding in a fluid. They don't move in a straight, predictable line. They're constantly bumped this way and that. Our lives, our careers, our major choices, they are exactly the same. We are continuously coaxed in unpredictable directions by random people we meet, accidental timing, and completely unforeseeable events.
To prove how incredibly sensitive this walk really is, consider a mistake made back in the 1960s. Scientist Edward Lorenz was running a weather simulation. He took a tiny shortcut and entered a data point as 0.293 instead of 0.293416. That microscopically tiny difference, literally a fraction of a decimal, completely changed the simulated global weather months down the line. It's the butterfly effect. An extra cup of coffee makes you late for a train, where you randomly bump into your future business partner. A tiny, invisible, random change creates a massively different future.
And that brings us to Part 5, How to Beat the Odds.
Now, at this point, you might be feeling some existential dread. Like, if life is just a chaotic casino, why even try? But understanding this is actually the most empowering payoff imaginable, because it gives you a massive strategic advantage. Here is the liberating truth. The cord that tethers true ability to ultimate success is dangerously loose and highly elastic. This means that if you're currently struggling, or if you've recently failed at something, it is very often not a reflection of your talent. It's not because you aren't good enough. It is simply the result of invisible, random forces bumping you in the wrong direction for a moment. You haven't lost your touch, you just haven't hit your streak yet.
Which brings us to the ultimate secret to navigating the Drunkard's Walk. IBM pioneer Thomas Watson famously said, "If you want to succeed, double your failure rate." If the game is heavily influenced by randomness, the only variable you actually control is the sheer number of times you step up to bat. You can't control the dice, but you absolutely control how many times you throw them.
And that changes everything. It shatters the whole myth of destiny and the crushing weight of perfectionism. It means the John Grishams and J.K. Rowlings of the world aren't just talented, they are the ones who flat out refuse to stop rolling the dice after 20 rejections. So, I'll leave you with this stark question to completely rethink your own future. If success truly is a numbers game, how many times are you willing to roll the dice?